Hey friends, welcome back to the Big Talk podcast. I'm your host, Tricia Brouk, founder of the Big Talk Academy, international award-winning director, producer, and author. And this is episode 502. I'm so excited for this special Ask Me Anything episode of the Big Talk, where I am going to be interviewed by the amazing Emma Cullen. Emma is my dear friend, mentee, and now social media manager. All the beautiful social media posts have her fingerprints all over them. And I've invited her onto the podcast today to take over as host. I cannot wait for you to learn more about Emma and for you to hear the beautiful conversation she brings to the show today. All right, everybody, let's do this. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited, Emma. I can't even hold my excitement back. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Where do we dive in? How do we do this? Tell me more.
So I actually feel like I found the perfect place to start. I thought a fitting place to start would be the topic of mentorship. So for those of you out there listening who don't know, I met Tricia when I was 17 years old. I wanted to be an actor, which I currently am. And I needed an acting coach and I needed to get into college. And my parents found Tricia Brouk and they drove me to New York City every Saturday to work with Tricia for an hour to get me ready for college. And we've stayed in touch ever since. She's been my mentor ever since. And now she's also my boss. And I work for the Big Talk as her social media manager. So I'd love it if we could talk a little bit about mentorship because you are my mentor. And I know that you have mentors of your own. So what do you think the value of having a mentor is, or even being a mentor to somebody else?
Oh, Emma, this is great. I'd love to start by talking about what it means to mentor someone. And I had the absolute privilege and pleasure of mentoring you however many years ago and continue to. And it is something that I am deeply passionate about. And the reason that I care about mentoring young women, especially, I've mentored all genders, and I really, really care about mentoring young women because in order to be a role model for you, for my friend's daughter, Ozali, it means not only leading and showing up in my life and in the world the way I know is possible for you, but it's also about being in that intimate relationship and reflecting back what I see in you before you see it. And allowing you to have access to me and everything that I know to be true just based on my years of experience. So I think mentoring is something that I absolutely love doing. It's something that is really important to me. It's something that I take very seriously. And if and when I can mentor someone, I will do it because giving back is food. Giving back is fuel. It fills the soul. And so it is my absolute pleasure and honor to mentor someone. The second part of your question, what does it mean to be mentored? I think for me, it is putting myself in a room where people know more than me. I am absolutely an ongoing learner. Curiosity is one of my values, and being able to be in a room with top level high performers, extremely successful human beings in whatever area they're successful in. I want to be in the room with them so that I can observe, so that I can ask questions, so that I can just be a fly on the wall and absorb what they know so that I can apply it to my own life and my own business. And so I think mentoring and being mentored is how we continue to grow. I grew by mentoring you, Emma. I became a better coach, a better acting teacher because I had the opportunity and the privilege of mentoring you. So it's a two-way street. And I'd love to know from you, what was your experience of being mentored? And now that you're inside of our company, I'm still mentoring you, and I'm still mentoring, our coaches too, because it's something that I care about. So what was your experience with that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't even know if I could share my experience as like a hard stop because it's such an ongoing thing still. But what I will say is you are the first adult professional in this industry I met that made me feel like what I was dreaming of was possible. And that was the biggest thing for me, because I was 17. I had the whole world ahead of me. I didn't know, I've never been on my own before. I was going to college to study this thing. And all the adults in my life were like, but what's your backup? And I met you and you told me I didn't need a backup. And not just because, dream big, you're like, dream big. And here's all the tools you need to equip yourself to do this thing because it is possible and it is available to you. Um, and so I think the biggest thing that you've taught me is to never limit myself. And that has been a huge thing. And I went out and I rocked college and I graduated college and now I'm in New York City and I'm doing my best to rock New York City. And so I am honored to be working for your company and to continue to have this kind of access to you as I enter yet another new stage of life, that has its own set of hardships, and to continuously remind myself to not to put limits on me. Anything is possible.
Absolutely. And for all of you who are listening and watching, Emma didn't just rock college, she owned college, right? Graduated magna cum laude honors, graduated with a minor in casting. Is that right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So major in acting, a minor in casting. She was also awarded, please remind me what award you
I
received.
got the SCAD Outstanding Academic Achievement Award for my achievements inside and outside of the classroom.
Right. So again, for everyone who's listening and watching, being an actor also means you're really smart. Let's just be clear about that, right? Being a dancer, I'm a
Hmm.
former dancer, also means you can run a very successful company. So, back to the anything is possible. When you're in the arts and your desire is to be a performer, an actor, a dancer, a musician, a playwright, you absolutely can make that happen when you have the tools and the support systems in place. And so being able to model that for you, Emma, moving here 30 plus years ago and having an actual career in dance where I toured the world. And now I can say to you, it's possible for you. And I'm secretly very, very happy that you chose New York and not LA. No, no disrespect to my friends in the Los Angeles area, in the Hollywood, but I'm so glad that you chose New York because I get to spend more time with you here and I get to help you with the resources that I have here.
It's been such an honor and such a blessing. And it kind of leads me into my next question I have for you. Um, so you give me just so much hope, Tricia. I mean, I moved to New York in September and it's been a really hard transition. I'm here to be an actor, and most of the days that dream just feels really far away. And I look at you, and you moved here when you were about the same age as me, and you were pursuing a creative career, and you had difficulties when you first moved here, and you had to work jobs that weren't dancing, but you did it. You had an incredibly successful dance career, and that opened doors into other fulfilling art forms like choreography, directing, producing, and now coaching. So, how did you keep going? Like, how did you keep that dream straight ahead and go after it day after day?
My one of my mantras is keep the story moving. And it is literally what I live by. And that's because you are going to get no after no after no after no after no. And you've heard me talk about this in my community. When I say no to a speaker, it's a not yet because there's some other door that's going to open. And I have shifted that thought process because when I was told no to the Paul Taylor Dance Company more than once, which was devastating at the time, I really had no idea what else I would do. That was the company I wanted to dance with. I was on scholarship for many, many years. I was apprenticing with Christopher Gillis, who was Paul Taylor's star male dancer. I was set up, the pedigree was set up. I was supposed to get into that company and I did not get into that company.
Hmm.
What am I going to do? Go back to Arnold, Missouri? What am I going to do? Stop dancing? What am I going to do? Allow myself to have a tantrum and to be why me? Absolutely not. That is an opportunity for me to keep the story moving, which means what's my next chapter? What's the next story I'm going to write for myself? Okay,
Hmm.
check, did it, went through the process, mourned the loss of it. What's next? And that was what I did every single week. Because when you're, this is what we used to do. We used to look in backstage, and it was a newspaper, and it was on the corner next to the Village Voice, and we would go into those red cubbies, and we would get the backstage, and we would get the Village Voice, and we would look for auditions. So I would go to auditions every single day, every week at least. And no, 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 no. Okay, I got to keep the story moving. I have to reinvent what dance company I want to work for. I have to reinvent how I'm going to stay in shape and be at the top level of readiness, because the reality is, and this is good for you as well, Emma, you're going to acting class right now, because that is
Mhm.
being ready. I was going to dance class every single day, whether I was in a dance company or not, because I needed to be ready for auditions. And you're going to acting class right now because it's a fine-tuned machine. Having the technique of being an actor and having the technique of being a dancer means you are a tool, you need technique, and you have to have a high level of readiness so that when the job comes, you're a yes. And so keeping the story moving is, okay, what else is out there for me? And the reality is, had I gotten into the Paul Taylor Dance Company, I would not have the grit I have. I would not have created a business like this. I would not be the entrepreneur that I am. I would be somewhere else. And this moment in time with you in this beautiful conversation, and I'm sitting here looking at the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater out my office window, nothing could beat this. And this is
Mhm.
because I kept the story moving. I didn't limit myself by expectations. I didn't limit myself by the no's. I didn't limit myself by what many people would consider failures. I considered those growth opportunities. Okay, I didn't get into my very favorite company ever. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look for another company, and I'm going to go to City Center, and I'm going to see the dance concert, and I'm going to watch the other dancers dance this beautiful work every single year.
Mhm. That's awesome. Keep the story moving. I love that. I love
How do
that.
you keep your
Really love
story
that.
moving?
I grew up, the motto that we grew up with, my dad will be so happy I'm sharing this on a podcast, especially your podcast. What Matt
I'm at
Cullen used to tell us. Yeah, hi, Dad. What he used to tell us was some people ask for what they want, others take what they get. And so it's kind of the idea where it's like, do everything in your power so that if it's a no, if you have to walk away, you know it's not because you didn't try. And so I tried to go into everything with that mindset. Like, did I do everything in my power? Did I prepare myself correctly? Did I come into this um ready and with everything I needed? Did I set myself up for success? And if the answer is yes, then I did my job. And if it didn't come to me even then it wasn't for me. And that's how I try to approach things. And it's exactly what you said with class. I just try to stay ready. And I've been in this class for 5 weeks. I'm so glad I took it. Um, Making friends in the city has been hard. I work virtually for you and it's been amazing, but I don't really meet a lot of people. And so it's given me an artistic community. It's given me a way to practice my craft. And I did my first short film in New York 2 days ago. I was sitting in the back of the Uber and I was like, I'm ready because I've been on camera practicing for the last 5 weeks. I've joined this class. I've been working with other artists. I've been surrounded by other actors. Even when I wasn't performing, I was watching them. I was giving feedback. I was listening to their feedback. And so I felt so prepared. I came into this with success. I came into that audition with success. I set myself up for success there. And the stars aligned. The universe was like, this one's yours. And so I got to meet a bunch of filmmakers too.
I love that, Emma. And in addition to you being ready and you understanding the craft and the technique that you are relying on as an actor, as a working actor, you also talk about community and being in the room with other people who are doing what you're doing is how we get better. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also so important to just touch on when it comes to whether you're an actor, whether you're a dancer, whether you are in healthcare, whether you're an entrepreneur, an author, being in community with other people who are doing things that can keep you at the top of your game, that is where we really start to rise up and to have greater impact. And that's what we do here at the Big Talk. One of our values is community. And so you being in community with the other actors will also lead to that job, because you're going to get a referral, you're going to get an introduction. And I think that that's also really important for our listeners to sort of take away, is that being around other people, because the world is so virtual right now, is really where some of the magic happens and where some of the deals are made.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all people who know people who know people. And even my younger sibling was going to college. They were so nervous. And I was like, Gio, the first person you meet, they're not going to be your best friend. But if you like them, great. Grab coffee with them, because they'll introduce you to someone who will introduce you to someone who will be the greatest person you've ever met. You know, that's just how the world works. We meet people who meet people. And if you just show up as your most authentic self, the right people, the right opportunities, they come to you.
And there's something I want to touch on here, which is a really nice connection to what you're saying, Emma, is that you are a trained actor, which means you're incredibly articulate and you know how to communicate. You were always that way. However, it's improved and it's gotten even more. You've gotten even more gravitas since you were 17, obviously. But I think that's something that's also important for the audience to kind of come away with, is that when you're having a conversation or you're in communication with a new community, you have that one chance to show up and to be articulate and to be clear and to be of service and to not blather on. So I think being succinct, being ready, and being available are three things that really will help you keep the story moving.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And surrounding yourself, like you were saying, with people you admire and you want to be like, you know, and being able to surround myself with you constantly and your work constantly as your social media manager, doing deep dives into your book every week, and your videos and your content and your newsletter. Um, you know, it's really helped me, I think, improve myself and my ability to communicate. And that has been really big as well. You know, they say, like, show me your friends and I'll show you the kind of person you are. And it's like, I surround myself with you and the community that you've created with every day through my work that I do for you. Um, and it has been so beneficial. I actually had to keep a little note section when I was going through your quotes. I was like, here's quotes that I might want to put on social media, and here's quotes that I actually needed to hear today as a person. I'm like, Emma quotes,
Oh,
Tricia's social media quotes. Um, but that does bring me to my next question for you. As I joke that being mentored by you and working for you has made me healthier, I'm certainly drinking more water than ever before. Um, I know, it's so true. This is the water bottle I bought. It's 68 ounces. I'm very excited about it.
proud of
Um,
you. Proud of you.
Thank you. But you're a high performer, and I find that title a little daunting sometimes. Is that something that you have always considered yourself? Is that a mindset that you can grow into? Is high performance something that's achievable for all of us? And where do we start?
Great question, Emma. I think that I've always been a high performer, and that is because of the discipline of dance.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike many of the performing arts, it's impossible to fake being an exceptional dancer.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of fake singing, you can sort of fake acting.
Oh,
You
we put
can't
bad actors
really,
on TV all the time.
right? So it's really hard to fake being an exceptional dancer. We've got to be in shape, we've got to have technique, turnout, fifth positions, balance, ballon, how high you can jump, all of the things. So I think that that is was my first taste of what it means to be a high performer. So my discipline, my grit, my ability to work through pain, emotional and physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I've now turned my high performance to into the next level, because, you know, dancing and recovery and high performance and recovery, they go hand in hand. But what I love now is that there's a whole science behind high performance. So I get to actually look at stats and look at the data. When I was dancing, it was just how much harder can I go? How much harder can I
Mm,
push myself? How many more pirouettes can I land? How much higher can I jump? How much longer can I dance before I pass out from exhaustion? And that was just the athlete in me pushing myself. Now there's so much data on why drinking a gallon of water a day will help your inflammation and your cognitive function, and why sleep is so important, right? I have an Aura ring. I started doing cryotherapy, which is I stand in like a meat locker freezer. It's like a telephone booth, but it's 200 degrees below zero, and I stand in there for 3 minutes.
oh my God.
I love the expression on your face, Emma. It's amazing. So, and that is really good for inflammation and circulation and all of these things. I don't have a cold plunge, or I would do that. So, there's a
Hmm.
place in New York City called the Fuel Stop, and they have all these amazing things. And one of them is a cryotherapy place. And you go in, and you can't see anything, you can't hear anything. It's really, really cold. And so I've been doing that. And just today, a friend of mine sent me, this is going to also make you laugh, Emma.
Okay.
My friend of mine sent me a portable bed of nails.
For you to
So
like
this
lay down on?
it's for your feet. So today I took out the portable bed of nails, and it's this gorgeous box, and you just open it, and then it's got enough room for 1 foot on one and 1 foot on the other. And when you close it, it's safe, so nobody can accidentally step on it.
Okay.
So I stepped on this bed of nails for 1 minute today, and that was the longest minute of my life.
Oh my gosh. What
And
are the
again, it's
benefits of doing that? Is it like a mental game or is it like nerves in your feet? What's the deal there?
stimulation, mindset, endorphin production. So it's all about putting your body in a state of what is happening, and then releasing that so that you come back to healing, right? So it's the same thing
Mhm.
when you go into a cold chamber. It's that fight or flight, and it helps you. It's about longevity. So I
Okay.
am in this year 2023, like I am taking my longevity game to the absolute next level. And so I'll keep you posted. Apparently, once you stand on this bed of nails for more than 5 minutes, you start to tolerate it, and the pain goes away. I was on there for 60 seconds, and I had it. It was really intense. So I'm excited to report the long-term effects and how much longer I'm able to stand on the bed of nails.
I can't wait to hear about it. Do you do it every day?
I just got it last night. So today was my first day.
Okay. Wow, that's gonna be like some like 30-day challenge. I'm gonna like expect a weekly report or something on that.
You got it.
That is amazing. Um, fantastic. I think I'll start with water. I feel like maybe water is a good place for me to start, and we'll see where it
Sleep.
goes from there.
I would like for you to work on water and getting enough sleep. We'll
Yeah,
start
I
there.
think I sleep is not a problem for me for sure. I'm a good sleeper. I got one of those like completely blackout sleep masks. It's great.
It's a compression mask as well, no?
Yeah, I have a compression one that you can like stick in the freezer for migraines. Wow, I slept like a rock that night that I put in the freezer. No going back. It was
And
amazing.
we'll put these links in the show notes, everybody, so that you can get your own bed of nails
Your
and
own bed of nails, your
your own
own compression
compression.
mask, your own gallon of
Yeah,
water, your
that's right.
whole high performance kit you can
That's
get
right.
off this episode. I love that. Okay, moving on. So, Trisha, as I have transitioned out of college, as I've entered the professional world, it's really important to me that I'm surrounding myself with specifically female professionals. And that's because I feel like we're often told when we're asking for what we want, kind of like what I was saying before, ask for what you want or take what you get. When we're asking for what we want, and we're taking charge of our own careers or our businesses, that this like stereotype is put on us that we're being pushy or we're being unreasonable. So how do you continue to own your power as a female entrepreneur?
Great. And I'd like to pose the question, what's wrong with being pushy or unreasonable?
That's a very good question. I guess there is nothing wrong with it. I just feel like I feel like sometimes when women are taking charge of their careers, of their businesses, of their lives, there's this like negative stereotype that's put on them that like men just don't have, you know what I mean? Like we have to almost justify the things that we want more. Um and I think that's a really interesting point you bring up, almost like reframing that narrative of being pushy and unreasonable. I
I
guess
love
so
I
what?
love this. I love this conversation because I do think there's a lot of implicit bias with gender and
Mhm.
who gets to be at the table and who doesn't. And we're making some progress. Some, everyone, some progress. We need to make all the progress. However, I am always unreasonable and I want to own that fully. I desire to have impact in the world. I want to have as much support of my speakers as possible and my actors and my community. And I am unreasonable. And what that means is I get up at 4 a.m. That's unreasonable. That's not always easy, but I will live
Mhm.
my life and be unreasonable with what my desires are. I desire to take Joe on a trip in the Four Seasons private jet to Africa. There's nothing reasonable about that. That's unreasonable. And that's what I desire. I desire to bring you into this company, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure that you are happy and that you love working with us and that you stay working with us while you're also pursuing your acting career, because that is also my priority, is to support you in being successful in your acting career. And I will be with you in this company as long as we can. And once you are making movies in Hollywood and I have to let you go, I will. However, I am unreasonable in my desires for whatever it takes to keep you and to keep you happy and to make this workplace environment fulfilling for you. I'm unreasonable with the kind of relationship I want with my husband. I want the best relationship. I want open communication. He also has wants. It's not just my side that we're talking about here,
Mhm.
but it's really the idea of I wake up being unreasonable. And I wake up knowing that there's more for me. I wake up knowing there's more for my community. And so I show up being unreasonable because that is the life I want to live. And I also show up pushy. I want
Mm.
people to understand that excellence is one of our values here at the Big Talk. We don't make good speakers, we make great speakers. I show up at a level of excellence so that my team can show up at a level of excellence. I show up at a level of excellence in my marriage so that my husband can show up at a level of excellence. I show up for my cats, Lola and Bella, at a level of excellence. I am unreasonable when I think about the care that I'm going to provide them with and for. And that is something that I will never apologize for or about. And I think part of this mindset came from going to a women's college where I didn't see inequality. I didn't see it because I was only being educated with other women. So there wasn't a front row of men raising their hands to a back row of women not. So I think that that helped, but I also feel that how I show up in the world and how I model equality is my responsibility. And it will give other women and girls permission to do the same. So if you are listening to this, whether you identify as a cis female, cis male, uh, binary, trans, you have a voice. And I encourage all of you to show up being unreasonable and pushy.
Hell yeah, Trisha. I'm sorry, can I say that?
Yes.
Round of applause, standing ovation. If I could stand up, I'm wedged in here right now. That was awesome. Be unreasonable. I love the mindset shift in that. That really made me feel the power that I have in myself. And it was something that someone actually said at one of your events, that like no one can make you feel empowered. Like they can't give you power. You have it in yourself. And I feel like what you just said made me feel the power I have in me already. It didn't give me the power, it showed me that it already exists.
Yay.
So that was great. I loved that. Thank you.
And thank you for asking the wonderful question.
Um, so one of the things that you do ask of your speakers is to be vulnerable. Um, Vulnerability, I know, is like a really big thing that you teach in the Big Talk Academy. It's a big thing they teach in acting too. And so I was just wondering, is there a moment of vulnerability in your career that you have found particularly transformative?
I think when I was asked to perform Antigone with Big Dance Theater in 2000, in 2000, was it 2001 that the World Trade Center bombing happened, 9/11, 2001?
Yes, that's correct.
I was I was downtown when it happened. I lived on 11th Street, below 14th Street and Avenue A, and they closed off from 14th Street down to the Trade Center. They closed it off. There was no traffic for months, and you had to show
Mhm.
identification to get below 14th Street. So I lived on 11th, which meant I was in that kind of zone where there was no traffic. It was super quiet. There was a metallic taste in my mouth for months. The air had that odor in it. And maybe a week later, the show was obviously paused the week of 9/11, but I think the next
Mhm.
week or maybe the 2 weeks we were asked to perform. To the show must go on.
Mhm.
And the theater that we were performing at was the Kitchen, and the Kitchen is over on 10th Avenue. So it was literally half a block from where all of the emergency vehicles were driving down to the World Trade Center and trying to pull out bodies and trying to dig through the rubble. And I remember thinking, why are we performing? Why are we going to the theater? Nobody's going to come. And it was this moment of just devastation and shock and frustration. And we went into the theater and we performed the show. And it was hard, but it was beautiful. And afterwards, the entire audience waited for us in the lobby. The entire audience waited for us in the lobby and thanked us for performing and shared with us how much it meant to them to see art and to feel that connection to something beautiful during a time of such trauma and devastation. And that was a vulnerable moment for me because I my ego and my shock and my own trauma got in the way of what it is that I do as an artist, which
Mhm.
is perform for an audience, serve the audience. And that moment I will never forget. And I will never allow anything else to come to come between or to come in the way of how I show up for my audience, how I show up for my community, and how I show up for global humanity. So that's a vulnerability that I was able to turn into something that really served me in 2020, 19 years later, which was,
Mhm.
and you were part of this, Emma, Speakers Who Dare. The show was happening in March of 2020, and we didn't know what was going on. New York City was full of chaos and uncertainty. And I had to think, do we cancel? Do we postpone? Do we risk having speakers in the theater and no audience and live stream it? And so this was a really great example of me being conscious now, 19 years later, of my ego being in the way. Okay, 9/11, my ego was in the way, and I thought, I don't want to perform, right? 19 years later, put your ego aside. What's right? What's
Mhm.
right for these speakers? What's right for the audience? What needs to happen right now in this place of uncertainty, trauma, chaos? And I took a walk and I checked my ego at the door and I thought, what does the world need right now? And what do these speakers need right now? And how can I make this happen safely? And then I have this light bulb moment. Oh my gosh, I'm a filmmaker. I can ask my speakers to, I can literally ask and direct my speakers remotely to record themselves giving their talks in new environments, and I can cut it together and create a feature film, and we can live stream that. So we went from being able to perform to 150 people at the Triad Theater to 150 countries. And so that moment of vulnerability 20 years ago set me up for leadership 20 years later. And you performed in that virtual event from your bedroom.
I did. I sat on top of our TV stand in our like little playroom office so that I could make myself like a little backdrop. I was like raised like 4 feet off the ground, like sitting on this
Yeah.
television stand.
And that talk, for anybody who wants to find it, we'll put the link in the show notes, but it's the Speakers Who Dare talk. And I invited Emma to speak about how camp taught her about leadership. And it's one of my favorite talks.
Thank you. It's very sweet. And I feel like in addition to what that experience back in the early 2000s, like what that taught you in 2020, I also see it every day just in what you teach at the Big Talk Academy, the idea of putting the audience first, and that there's at least one person out there who needs to hear from you. And it's clear that the entire audience that night needed to see that show. But even if it's not the whole audience, even if it's like one person, that is what you always stress, that there's someone who needs to hear your voice, your perspective, your performance. And I see you teach those lessons every day, and it's amazing to know kind of where that comes from. So thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you for asking.
Of course,
You're
of
you're
course.
doing a great job, by the way, Emma.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being on the other side of the interview. I hope it's been fun for you. If you want to keep going, I think I have one or two more written on here. Um,
Let's do it.
but cool. I wanted to know, um, you've supported people in many different fields with many different perspectives, some that even differ greatly from your own beliefs. So, how do you separate your personal opinions from the talk that you are supporting so that you can best serve the person who is meant to hear it, while we're on the topic of finding that person in the audience who's meant to hear from you?
What a great question. What inspired this question, may I ask, Emma?
I actually, I remember I did your Big Talk Over Dinner that did not get aired in this series. It was on politics. And I remember we were at a table with some people that you knew, some people that you didn't know very well, and some people that you were really close with. And we got into a conversation about abortion um, that I found a little bit deeply angering at times. But I did know there was one woman there who you did have a close relationship with, who did not share the same belief as you. And I saw a talk that she did one time that I believe you helped produce as well. And it was a beautiful talk. And I know that you helped with that. And so I'm wondering, how do you separate those two things?
I had a feeling that was one of your inspirations for this question. And I've also spoken several times on other podcasts that when Roe v. Wade was overturned, the first person I called was my friend who has the complete opposite point of view. And I called her. I didn't text, I literally called her, and she picked up. And I
Mm,
said, I would really love to have a conversation with you right now because her beliefs are different from mine. And I needed to understand her. I needed to hear from her. I needed for her to hear from me. And that's where this comes from. In the Influential Voice book, I have very strong points of view. My belief systems are intact. And I also feel strongly that every opinion, every belief has room.
mm-hmm,
It's not about us all having the same opinions. It's about us all coming together and having dignified conversation about our differences. And so it is my responsibility to help amplify and elevate voices. It is not my responsibility to convert everyone to think like me.
mm-hmm.
And that's dangerous. I want
Yeah.
everyone to think for themselves, I believe in free speech and I believe in differing opinions. And so it's very easy for me to support a speaker or a thought leader who has a different opinion than me. Now, if we're talking about values, that's something else, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Values are different from a belief system. And so if I've got a speaker who values abuse and a speaker who values negativity, a speaker who values corruption, that's not the right fit for me. But if I've got a speaker who values love and who values community, who has different political ideas than I do, that's fine. That's okay. And you know what? We're going to be better because we're having conversations about our differences.
Mm-hmm. And I think the key word I heard there too is dignified conversations, like dignity and respect in there is what really
That's right.
like allows that relationship to thrive.
And that's what we are devoted to doing here at the Big Talk is giving our community an opportunity to come together to have dignified conversations and to learn to be an effective communicator. If we all had the same opinions, if we were all the same and thought the same things, it would be so boring. It would be so limiting. Innovation wouldn't happen. So I think the ultimate goal is for us to learn how to communicate with respect, dignity, humility, curiosity, and love.
Beautiful. That was beautiful, Tricia. Thank you so much for joining me in conversation today and being on the other side of the interview. I hope everybody is coming out of this podcast thinking about how they can move their own stories forward. And they go out into the world communicating with dignity and respect and asking for what they want instead of taking what they get.
Amazing. And everybody be unreasonable.
Be unreasonable and
Thank
drink
you,
your
Emma.
water.
Amazing. Emma, thank you so much for hosting me on the Big Talk podcast today. Everybody who dropped in, we so appreciate you and your time. Hit us up on Instagram. Let us know what your biggest takeaways were for this episode. And remember, your voice matters. Big love, everybody. Mwah.